pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. If you would, please turn your cell phones to silent. Ms. Fowler, roll call.
Councilmember Preston?
Here.
Councilmember Kelly?
Here.
Councilmember Broughton, excused absence. Councilmember Varner?
Present.
Vice President Davis?
Present.
Councilmember Vorty?
Present.
Councilmember Furlick?
Here.
Councilmember White?
Present.
President Scott?
Present.
8 present.
Thank you. Report on subcommittee minutes, please.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the July 24th, 2017 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Motion to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Special business. Ms. Fowler, would you please give reading to 1728?
1728, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, publicly commending and honoring Vice Chancellor Karen L. White for over 42 years of devoted service and commitment to the students of Indiana University, South Bend.
At this time, we're going to change up the routine a little bit. Ms. White, would you please go down to the podium? And would her family members please join her? This presentation is by the majority of this Common Council, and we'll read it from here. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, publicly commending and honoring Vice Chancellor Karen L. White for over 42 years of devoted service and commitment to the students of Indiana University, South Bend.
Whereas Karen L. White is originally from Buffalo, New York, and she relocated to South Bend at an early age. She attended Harrison Elementary School on South Bend's west side and graduated from Central High School. Ms. White received her bachelor's degree in psychology and social work from Indiana University, Terre Haute, and her master's in education from Indiana University. And
whereas on September 1st, 1974, Karen joined Indiana University South Bend staff as a counselor, and after 42 years of exemplary service, Karen White will retire. And whereas Karen's road to community service began while she was a high school student and has continued throughout her college and professional life, and
whereas service to family, community, and education are the hallmarks of Karen L. White's journey, and she is a firm believer in thought and in deed in the tenet as stated by Marion Wright Edelman. Service is rent we pay from the living. She's the only African American who has served both as president of the South Bend Community School Corporation Board of Directors and as president of the South Bend Common Council. And
whereas Ms. White is a proud alumni of Indiana University South Bend and has served in various capacities for over 42 years. From her beginning days as a counselor, frequently recognized for her exemplary administrative leadership skills, Karen has served in many key administrative roles, and whereas she became the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Directors of the Freshman Division in 1989. In 2000, she began to serve as Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Dean of Students. She was also asked to serve as Interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management from July 1 to October 31, 2017. Then she became Director of Student Summer Leadership Academy in 2008 and has continued to serve in that role for many years since. From her appointment in 2005 until today, Karen holds the position of Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Services and Dean of Students. And
Go Gavin.
go to Gavin.
Whereas, her greatest joy remains her ability to work with students. She has taught the University Life Seminar for nearly a decade. The students in her seminar, numbering in the hundreds, have all graduated. She has always said that they, and every student, are her babies, and she would have them, quote, for life. Those statements have proven true, as many of the children of those students have become mentored and guided by Karen.
Whereas Ms. White has received numerous awards and honors for her many civic and public services, including the E. Ross Bartley Memorial Award presented by Indiana University in recognition of meritorious and extraordinary administrative and supportive services, and the 2012 Charlie Nelms Alumni Award for her dedication to ensuring access and success of students at IUSB, and
And now, therefore be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of South Bend as follows. 1, Section 1. The Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana publicly honors and congratulates Karen L. White on her integrity, knowledge, and commitment to service. Throughout her tenure at Indiana University South Bend, she served generations of students with grace. Also, Section 2. Although Karen will continue to serve the residents of South Bend in various capacities and the Common Council, wishes Karen the best as she begins the next journey in her life and retirement. Section 3. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Common Council and approval by the mayor. So, thank you, Karen, for everything that you have done. Right now, we'll take comments from council.
Congratulations, and I hope you enjoy retirement.
yeah, you're unbelievable. Even though I've been around a long time, I've still got a lot to learn, and you're the kind of person that I learned from. So thank you very much.
Thank you for all your wisdom, and I'm glad to continue to be able to work with you on the council. I also got a chance to work with you at IUSB, so it's been an honor to have you in my life.
Yeah, it's been about, I think, 18 years we've been on the council together. And if I had to share that 18 years with someone, it would be someone like you, because we've been able to get together on things, have your disagreements, but by and large, I think we're looking out for the same thing. And that's a great trait that you have, and it's been great to work with you.
Karen, it's truly an honor to know you and to work with you. There's not a more caring, thoughtful public servant anywhere, and I appreciate all you've done for me and our community. Congratulations.
Karen, a lot has been said that is so true, and I just want to thank you for being a role model, for really being somebody I could go to in this new role on the council. I find you, as often people say, very even-tempered, but I've also noticed being up here with you, you're also pit bull. So I've seen that behind the scenes, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Look forward to continue working with you.
And Karen, like I said, at IU, my first year on council, I sat next to you for a reason, and that was because you're my mentor, whether you liked it or not. But I sat next to you because I learned so much from you in this position that I take very seriously, and I appreciate that. I've learned like all other people have learned. So thank you for being able to work with you all these years and much, much more. So this time, turn it over to you and your family if you'd like to say anything.
I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you. I'm so glad that this is the end. It has been a wonderful 2 weeks. I have been very uncomfortable, but I do appreciate all of your awards, your acknowledgement, but most importantly, having the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. And it's been a joy. I look forward to the upcoming years, and I will continue to do my best to do the job that I've been elected to do. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Sir. At this time, anybody else from the public or the family would like to say something?
Family.
Nope.
I weren't prepared, but I thank you for taking care of her because she often takes care of everyone. People at IUSB, people in the city, especially us, our family members. So I thank you for supporting her in everything that she's done.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to come up and speak in favor of this special resolution?
Senator Brown, 222 East Navarre Street. South Bend, Indiana. And there is not enough time to say all the things you want to say about Karen. She's remarkable. And I hope that in her retirement, she can get some rest, because I know everybody's still going to be trying to call her and lean on her. So you don't really go into retirement. I don't know what you call it. But I just hope you just enjoy yourself, because we all depend on it. I know I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Deborah Walker, 639 Diamond Avenue. To my sister Karen, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are such a great person and a great mentor, and we couldn't do it without you. God bless you.
Name and address, sir.
137 East Indiana Ave, South Bend. Karen White, met you as a young kid.
Yeah, I was a baby.
Yeah, from the same church. Always a pillar. You have set a standard within our community of leadership. And me as a pastor, we really appreciate the times that you have guided us and helped us become successful in our ministry. South Bend, the school has lost a major piece of the puzzle, but now I pray that you relax and enjoy life more and continue to do the things that you do behind the scene to make everybody better. And so, Mark Carmel, we really appreciate you. And me as a pastor, we love you, and I continue to do great work that you always do. May God always bless you.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Make a motion to adopt?
Oh, hang on. Is there anybody who wish to speak against? Would you please register with the police chief in the back? Seeing none, we'll...
Motion to adopt by acclamation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Come on forth.
Act like you don't know how this works. Where do I go? What do I do? That's fine.
That's good, yeah.
Thank you so well. How are you?
Yeah, now I know you.
Yes.
Take picture.
Oh, yeah.
Picture. We got a picture.
You got a picture already.
Our council picture.
Yeah, we got a
All right. We cool.
All right, we're done embarrassing.
You sure? You got one more thing left?
We should talk about some all year.
A trip?
Okay, thank you all. We, at this time, do not have any report from city offices. I see Susanna Pritzker is in the audience, representing the mayor's office. Now I'll entertain a motion to rise and join the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Come down.
Might as well.
All right.
The Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee. During each ordinance, you will have an opportunity to either speak in favor or against. Your comments for each bill will be limited to 5 minutes. With that, would the city clerk please read 4517?
4517, public hearing on an ordinance to vacate the following described property. The first north-south alley west of Laurel Street running from Jefferson Boulevard to the first east-west alley and north from Jefferson Boulevard to the first east-west alley.
Is there a committee report, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Public Works and Property Vacation Committee met earlier today and gave this a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter? Please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Carl Edmondson. I live at 1102 West Jefferson. We actually also own the sites at 1042 West Jefferson and 1035 West Jefferson, which we're maintaining. The 1035 is a park space. We're just green space as a community park. And at 1042, we're planning on digging a new foundation and actually moving our house from 1102 over to that and keeping our 1102 spot as raised bed gardening. So this shows the two alleys that we were looking to vacate. I think the main concern that anybody might have would be access to the neighborhood, and as you can see here, Maple Street or Laurel Street kind of bookend the whole thing, and it's only 600 feet to either of those streets. There's 300 feet to the west is another alley that will give you access to either of those east-west alleys that are there. These are some pictures of the actual alleys. So the one on the left is the alley facing north towards Washington, and the one on the right is the one facing south. So basically, to the left of the north-facing alley is where the park is, and we're basically trying to maintain pedestrian access and safety, where cars drive through these alleys rather quickly. We have a lot of kids who like to go into this park and play there. We hear parents all the time say stop at the alley because they're concerned about traffic coming through. There's no signs or signals or anything, so people blow past where the sidewalk is and just go to the street. Same thing on the south facing alley. The alleys are not well maintained. We've lived here for 16 years and we've not seen the city actually do anything. The asphalt is crumbling. For the south facing alley, once we move our house over to the east, we're going to keep our garage in that space as sort of a maintenance shed for both the park across the street and for the raised bed gardening. This is our house currently, and so this is sort of our dream for that lot. And so we're going to want to run water from our house across the alley, and just having that alley not be there would make that a lot easier and a lot safer. This is a picture of the park across the street. We've in the last 2 years, we've planted 22 trees. We redid the sidewalk and the curb just this summer. This is sort of illustrative of the children would like to play in the park, and here's some more pictures. We actually curved the sidewalk around to maintain the older trees that are there. Every Tuesday have been having neighborhood volunteers come out and help us move mulch and things like that. So mainly we're just trying to maintain safety and access to these things. The last sort of idea, this is the north-facing alley, abuts the Civil Rights Heritage Center to the north. And you can see when they redid that, they cut off the alley that actually went to Washington, and they built sort of the wall that we're hoping to talk to them about, is possibly having pedestrian access from our neighborhood there. So this alley we're going to kind of keep as a pedestrian walkway and just try to maintain pedestrian access and safety. Am I missing? My wife. That's about it.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor?
Maurice McGee, 3525 Washington Street. I lived in a neighborhood on Thomas, which is a parallel street that abuts against Adelaide for 21 years, and on Jefferson, directly across the street from them, for 6 years, and across the street on Jefferson, another 3 or 4 years. So I'm very familiar with the neighborhood and their efforts. I have intimate reasons of why I think the council should grant this vacation. One of which I mentioned is the community, the bringing the community together and the neighbors and giving access for the children to get to the park without having to worry about crossing the alley. Reiterating what Carl said, it hasn't been maintained by the city, so it's actually kind of dangerous with the broken asphalt. But the other reason I didn't mention earlier, and I'll see if I can get back to it, is because my 5-year-old still lives next to the alley, the new orange shirt in the park. In addition to the number of children that live within 2 or 3 houses of him, they all utilize that area. So I just asked the council to approve this vacation. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in favor, is there anyone? Oh, I'm sorry. Please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Alan Larkin. I live at 1016 West Washington Street. And I'd just like to say I think that the park already has made a huge impact in our neighborhood. I moved into the neighborhood in 1985 on West Washington Street, and I had always thought that the Jefferson Thomas Napier area that is south of us was a little bit of a dangerous environment. Back in the late 80s, frequently we would hear gunshots in the evening, and as that has tapered off and has actually transformed over a period of years, now it seems that that has gone away. Nevertheless, the thing that really convinced me that the neighborhood was on the upswing was when I finally walked down my back alley and saw that the Edmondsons had actually transformed a large area of the street, cleared up the alley. It now seems like the neighborhood is actually a neighborhood. And so emboldened by this idea, I actually then bought a property on Thomas Street, which is right across from where Maurice's grandma still lives right now. And so I'm intending to stay and help to build and maintain the neighborhood. I think that it's what the Edmondsons have done has been the kind of thing that's profoundly encouraging for other people to do that as well. It looks great. The kids use it. This photograph that we're looking at right here is just from 3 days ago. We had a little party on the street. A lot of people came out. Everybody was very happy about the park. I just think it's a great thing, and I hope that you find favor with the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move now to people speaking in opposition. Please state your name and address.
My name is Neil Andrew Snyder. I own the property at 1029 West Jefferson Boulevard and the property at 1032 West Jefferson Boulevard. And Carl has done a nice job in fixing up the neighborhood, and we all appreciate it. But my understanding is that park is actually private property, and he is actually fixing up his property. I don't know that it's public. For the public to be able to just go in and use that park, it seems to me like it's a private piece of property, which is fine. I'd like to read from the Bible. Solomon was the wisest and the wealthiest man that ever lived, and he said in Proverbs
and
chapter
sir,
20.
please keep your comments relevant to
it's
alley
completely
vacation.
relevant. Proverbs 22 and 28, it says, "Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set." What that means is that our forefathers, in their wisdom, understood that there needed to be an alley in that place, and they placed it there. If this alley is for the benefit of the community as a whole, then that's great, and if you need to remove it to benefit the whole city, then that's fine. So if Facebook is going to come in and build a giant office and they need that alley, then fine. But if it's a alley to benefit Mr. Carl Edmondson, then that's a different story altogether. If we're going to cause that alley to be just for his benefit. Now for me, I've got to drive all the way down to Maple Street and then turn right or turn left in order to come all the way back to the east, which is an additional quarter-mile drive every single day, which adds up to about 90 miles a year in extra driving because that alley is no longer going to be available. In addition to that, I just found out about this thing, and I spoke to 16 of the neighbors. and they all said that they are not in favor of having that alley closed. Here's a copy of the signatures. So we need that alley. You know, if the city's not maintaining it, that's another issue. But if this becomes personal private property of Carl and adds on to his real estate collection on the street, and it doesn't benefit the city as a whole, then I strongly object to the alley, and I would like to urge the council to leave it the way it is, because all the neighbors that I've spoken to, I had one or two of them were neutral, but 16 people signed the objection, and they're not happy about the alley being closed. They use it, I use it, we use it.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Is that the close of your comments, sir?
That's the close of my comments. We need the alley. 16 other people signed a piece of paper saying they do not want that alley to be closed. I didn't have time to ask everybody in the whole city. I just asked the people on Jefferson Street.
Thank you, Chief. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition at this time? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. The petitioner has 5 minutes to rebut.
Gavin, point of order. The gentleman stated he owned the 2 properties but didn't give his actual address.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you please state your actual
Home
address?
address for the record.
You can just state it from right there if they can hear you.
I think they're being recorded. So I bought and rehabbed the
Just
property at
state
1029 West Jefferson Boulevard.
Just state your address, please. Your address.
1029 West Jefferson Boulevard.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
1032 West Jefferson Boulevard. I own both properties.
Where do you live, sir?
Which one is your address?
My home address is 1029 West Jefferson
Perfect.
Boulevard.
Perfect. That's what we needed. Thank you so much. With that, 5 minutes for rebuttal.
My name is Megan Edmondson. I live at 1102 West Jefferson, and I'm one of the petitioners for this bill. I'm saddened to hear that there were neighbors responding negatively to the suggestion of closing the alley. We were issued a radius map and given addresses that we generated mailings from to 28 addresses within that 150 foot radius, and everyone that we spoke to that received those letters were very excited about it, especially the parents of the younger children to the north of us. I would like to point out that Mr. Snyder's address, if you see 1035 the park there, his house is the one to the right of the park, and directly east of him is a north-south through drive that belongs to the group home there that I believe Oaklawn and Heritage Center partnered on. And in regards to, I'm not quite sure where the shortcut to Thomas Street is saving time. Perhaps you're talking about going down to Western to exit the neighborhood, but if there is some concern about accessing the rear of his property or exiting in a different route, perhaps he could speak to the group home about utilizing that. And I'd also like to be aware of who is not supporting this. I'd like to see the names and the addresses if possible.
Did she get a copy? Did she get a copy?
Yeah, it'll have.
Yeah, she can get a copy. It's public record.
Well, I hope you consider all the options there. Thank you. Question?
No questions at this time. Thank you. So back to council members for comments or for a motion.
Yeah, I need a clarification. What's your name? Megan. I'm sorry, Megan. You said, or the gentleman lives right over here. Yeah, she can help me clarify because I need some clarification.
I think there's a pointer on that.
The green. He lives at this address.
So basically,
he was actually outside the radius map. That house.
I understand. So he doesn't necessarily around his house. The alley is not a necessary issue around his house. Is that also correct?
That's correct. The alley, so his house is here, and the north-south alley is right here.
So he has alleys all around his house that affected your situation.
Right. And so he could literally drive down to the end of the block at Maple or Laurel to exit the neighborhood.
So he doesn't need all those 90 miles that he talked about from that standpoint.
I'm not
Okay,
sure where
thank
that's.
you.
Okay.
Cool.
I would point out, again, 600 feet to Laurel, 600 feet to Maple, 300 feet to the other alley. It's 25 feet from his house to that blue drive to the north. It's actually only 200 feet from his house to Laurel. I'm not sure.
I understand. I thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council at this time? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I make a motion to
Apologize,
send
sir,
this bill to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion does carry. City Clerk, would you please read 4617?
That is not my alley. The one on the,
Sir?
this is on the private property.
4617, a public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council amending the City of South Bend, amending Chapter 13, Article 5, Section 13-75.5 of the South Bend Municipal Code to add dealing in a synthetic drug lookalike substance to the list of prohibited activities constituting a disorderly house.
Is there a committee report, please?
The Health and Public Safety Committee accepted the substitute version of 4617 for consideration and gave it a favorable recommendation. Understand that there is a second substitute that needs to be acted upon.
Is there a motion to accept the second substitute?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Is there a presenter? Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Karen L. White. I live at 1912 Melbourne Way in the city of South Bend.
Tim Scott, 711 Forest Avenue, South Bend, Indiana.
Councilmember Scott and myself, we're happy to bring before the council the second substitute bill that deals with synthetic drugs. We'd like to say that on January the 15th, 2017, a number of city employees and others witnessed the impact of synthetic drugs on 3 young men at that time. And it was the chief of police who actually met with the South Bend Democratic Coalition, and they will be part of the presentation as well, to really bring to their attention the impact of this very serious public safety issue within our community. From there, a number of community organizations and social service agencies really came together to talk about how we as a city can respond to this particular issue within our city. So part of our presentation tonight will include the Chief of Police, Scott Witkowski. We're going to ask him to join us at this time. Also Kim Green-Reese, who's part of Beacon Health program at the hospital. She's going to be joining us. And also Robert Smith, who is part of the Senior Men Club that held a town hall meeting to begin to really ensure that the community became more aware of this particular public safety issue. Likewise, there was a press conference that was held during the month of February that began to pull together not only community leaders but others to come together collectively to address this issue. This shows that when individuals do come together, we have a common purpose that we can bring about some change to really begin to address this issue. Likewise, from the mayor office, we have Shay Davis, Sherry P., and our own city clerk, Karima Fowler, who has been with us every step of the way. So at this time, Councilmember Tim Scott will give a brief overview of the ordinance, and then I will share some general information, and then those who are part of the presentation will give you additional information in regards from a public safety perspective, from a health perspective, but also to share with you the number of resources that we have in this community that we can begin to educate not only at the high school and the K through 12 levels, but also to ensure that our parents
are aware of the impact of synthetic drugs.
Thank you, Karen. The things that we would like to state about this bill is the fact that this is devastating to our community. We've seen people from elementary school age all the way up to 78-year-olds being affected by this and being in the emergency room. And there's some numbers that are going to be coming on the side of the emergency room. What we're trying to do here, and I also want to thank Bob Palmer and Aladine DeRosa, their legal expertise on this, as well as Chief Ruskowski. This wasn't easy for us to look at. We've changed some of the language in the second version, the substitute version. It's a look-alike marijuana or cannabinoid substances. It's constantly changing, and what we want to do is we've included that term look-alike, and we've kind of described that because it's constantly changing, because the people making this junk is really trying to do whatever they can to get around the loophole, and too many people have different expectations, thinking that this is truly something that is all right, it's legal, I can have an experience off of it, which it really isn't. In 2014, the state of Indiana has categorized the synthetic look-alike drugs. We're trying to keep pace with it. And what it's doing is adding to our disorderly house ordinance. And when people say disorderly house, they think just a home, but no. This deals with individuals selling this as well as businesses. That disorderly house is your business, and we know businesses, have been involved with this stuff in the past. And what we want to do is send a message. While there is a criminal aspect to this, this is also a civil penalty put on by the city that is there to get attention. The fines range from $250 to $2,500, and the reason that is we know there are circumstances on the individual side that might mean a lower fine or something to do with that it gives some liberal leeways for the attorney in the city to look at individual cases. But what I really like to see is the $2,500 that we have in there. That's the most the city can impose by the state, and I hope that's sending the message to the commercial entities that are out there that are going to try to promote and sell this. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Cox for him to. I'm sorry, that's the fire chief. I apologize. Chief Ruskowski. Chief Cox actually chimed in on this as well, so got to give him a little bit of credit. But Chief Ruskowski on some of the perspective of the police department.
Thank you. Scott Ruskowski, 1701 West Sample Street, South Bend, Indiana, 46601. And that is my more time there than I do in my actual house. Just for the, I know I say that every one, but I literally mean that. Education and awareness. I know this shocks people, but that's what we as the police department believe in. That's what we need to be broadcasting. Education and awareness, first and foremost. Secondly, voluntary compliance. The majority of these are businesses, small businesses, Munchie Mart type things, small, that we all familiar with. And there are components where they're being possibly distributed out of houses, cars, school grounds, etc. Not necessarily anything in that order, but understand that that is being done. And I look over the numbers and I'm seeing 555 where it says cannabis use unspecified. And that, I'm sure I'm not speaking on behalf of the health industry, but I can assure you my best guess is that's at least 555 people that we know about. What about the ones we don't know about? What if there weren't a bunch of witnesses that the mayor and others had saw that day coming out of church? What if? And there's a whole bunch of those what ifs that nobody ever reports. They don't make it to the hospital. They don't notify the police department. And I know that the police department isn't willing to take chances if we do something to prevent it. So first and foremost is people voluntarily complying to not do bad things to other people. That would be optimal. Secondly, if they don't, and there's a chance for redemption here, we have a civil penalty that we could use now that we haven't had it to be able to use before. And lastly is a criminal penalty, civil and criminal. We don't want to have to do that. We don't want to have to put somebody through a court proceeding. and quite frankly, either a fair or unfair shake in our judicial system. Hopefully that compliance comes in the first mode where we can sit down and talk and advise people of the dangers of this. Everybody's heard about it, we've seen it, and last but not least, I asked the council to please keep in mind, I know I said this at committee earlier, but there are police officers, there are firefighters and medics that have to deal with these constantly. It's not the people that you see in the courtroom or afterwards when they're walking out of the hospital after being discharged. It's the people who are violent, some who are totally in almost a comatose state, very combative, and somebody has to deal with the people that we deal with, and that is us. We're the ones. So the police, fire, and the medics are dealing with this on a constant basis, and it's not a matter of if, it's already happened, and we've already seen it. And how many of the question marks do we know that did not survive, that we didn't know what the actual causes are? And a lot of times we may never know what those causes are, but I can bet you at least one of them had to do with this. So I would appreciate the council would please pass as intended.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Green Reeves. My home address is 50555 Galaxy Drive in Granger. I am representing today Beacon Health System. We have what is called a community health needs assessment that we conduct every 3 years. And out of the community health needs assessment, the community members fill this out. We have secondary data that we attribute to the overall priority areas, and then also key informants. So those that work very closely with community members in various capacities. Synthetic marijuana use has come about out of our priority, violent safety trauma. So with that said, I know that each of you should have the data in front of you, but I will go ahead and cover some of that as I've been directed by Mrs. White. Community Health at Beacon Health System believes the following hospital data can help to inform us to make better decisions moving forward. So pulling this data was very important for us. I should mention that this data is representative of our primary diagnosis codes, so what they come into the hospital for initially. However, that does not cover secondary codes. And so that being said, if an individual is hurt because they've used synthetic marijuana, that would come up. The use of it will actually be the secondary cause. And so I'm happy to pull those numbers if needed. That being said, moving forward, there were 981 visits to the ER, Memorial Hospital South Bend, in 2016. Out of that, 398 were termed or identified as abuse, 28 dependence, and dependence is that they depend on the use of synthetic marijuana. And so this is not something that's a one-time use, it's something that they have come in for, and it's said that they rely on this. And then finally, unspecified cannabis use. And as the chief mentioned, unspecified meaning we can't really pinpoint exactly why they have, or what the cause of them coming into the hospital could be. It's possible that it's abuse, it's an overdose, or it's possible that they're dependent, but for the diagnosis codes as it relates to the healthcare system, there's not a specific area for that, so we have to enter them as unspecified. Moving forward, out of the 981, 538 were male, 443 were female. As you can see, the race and ethnicity vary. We had 525 of those diagnosed at white, 377 black, 45 Hispanic, 20 other, and 14 unknown. The age also ranged from 13 to 19 all the way to 50 plus. As you can see, 13 to 19, 168 diagnoses, 20 to 29, 318, 30 to 39, 180, 40 to 49, 129, and 50 and older, 186. So as I mentioned before, it is our main goal to take this data and make informed decisions moving forward. I truly believe that having an ordinance will help us address the emergent needs in the community at this time. Thank you very much.
Robert Smith. I'm with the Martin Luther King Senior Men's Club, which is located at 12 26, Linden. One of the things in the neighborhood we see is that young kids, meaning those 13 to 16, they are preyed upon by people selling these synthetic drugs. The kids seem to get the idea that if I can do this, I will be like my older siblings, or like the people I've seen on TV. In one area at the King Center, there are after-school programs for kids. Some of the kids have to be taken aside in order that they can be calmed down, or that they can be given attention to. That's because they are in such a state of mind that they can't really concentrate on the after-school activities that they're going to be doing. Some kids don't have the energy, like they come in almost as though they are in a comatose state, you know. So the drug has an effect that it makes some of the children comatose-like, and with other kids, like it makes them very active. But in either case, these kids cannot be put in activities with the normal kids, you know. There's also a organization that the county has that deals with all types of substance abuse. It's called the Partnership for the Education and the Prevention of Substance Abuse. Now, they get their funding from the state drug court, but the funding is not enough. But in this case here, we aren't here to talk about funding. The ordinance that you're looking at will be a very important tool that can be used just to stop the people who are preying upon kids. Kids that age don't understand the effect that the drug will have on them. There are people who hang around these centers where children live, and they prey on them. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them later.
We would like to thank all of our presenters. There will be others that will be coming before the council to speak in favor of this particular second substitute bill. But we do ask for your support as we move forward. This is a very important public health issue. And again, I just can't speak in terms of values. Those who have come together, different organizations, individuals, that to really move this forward, and I'd like to thank everyone who has taken a part to bring it to this point at this time.
Are there any questions from council at this time?
Only question, could you just clarify again the strength of, somebody wants to challenge and say, you know, when you enforce this rule, what would be the strength of the legality regarding the strength of the ordinance?
That'd probably be something more for an attorney to weigh in on. However, again, this is a civil component as opposed to a criminal component. And obviously the necessity for having the criteria for one over the other is a little bit less when it comes to civil. However, I can tell you as a police department, we will still operate on a minimum of reasonable suspicion and emphatically on probable cause or higher. So that's what we'll do. Even with that, it would take the same thing that we'd use essentially for a criminal component. So if the fire department, for example, were to be on a run and notice something that didn't seem right when concerning the synthetics, they would notify us. That's a good faith belief that they believe that this place is selling or distributing these items that are obviously harmful and dangerous to our community, notify us, and we would be able to intervene, whether it's a permit, whether it's a permit to search, or a search warrant. And one thing, and I'm glad you asked that, because I was remiss, just briefly, there's a draft form right now that we're all working on, especially the council and committee, working on a promise to keep our community safe. There's no title to it. I have a synthetic drug community protection agreement. That's kind of lengthy and wordy. Hopefully with your expertise on the council, you can come up with something a lot more abbreviated than that, that makes sense. But essentially what it is just bullet points promising that you're not going to distribute this harmful stuff that nobody really knows what's contained in there to our community from ages 13 to 50 plus. It's dangerous, it's hurting us, and it's potentially killing us. And we're working on that now. That wouldn't probably fall right into the ordinance itself, but it's another measure of awareness and education that we can use and hold people accountable to promise that they're not going to do these things. And then we can take those other steps.
And I would just like to add to Vice President Davis, this falls under the disorderly house ordinance where either code, police, anybody who would see any type of violation to this could issue that kind of ticket or violation, and it would be investigated. Where you have the legal side prosecuting attorney through the county, they can do their thing on it as well as this on the civil side, which it would go through legal, go through the channels of evidence from the police or code enforcement or whoever to do that, and then move forward on the civil penalty. I think the one thing is this needs to send a message that it can't be sold here, and we all know that there's been repeat issues of that happening where these people are habitual in doing that, so that evidence can be built. Does that help?
I'm at peace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions from council, we'll open it up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor?
Hello, my name is Deborah Walker. I live at 639 Diamond Avenue, and I'm the president of the St. Joe County African American Democratic Coalition. And I just like to say that I'd like to thank the chief for coming to us and helping me get a group of people in the community to come to work on this ordinance. It's real important that we pass this ordinance. I was present the day that those young men became ill from that particular drug, and I feel that your support is very much needed. Thanks to Karen and the council, Tim Scott, for working on this ordinance. We need this. And what I've seen because of this is that how we have come together to work on to make our city better. So God, we need your support in doing so. Thank you.
My name is Samuel Brown. I live at 222 East LeVar Street. I have a watchdog group called 1690 for Better Government. And once again, the public is coming to ask you to pass an ordinance to make our community stronger. You are the leaders of our community. And anytime our leaders see something, whether it's the police chief, fire chief, or the community, it's up to you to hear the voice of the people. Or if you pass this, it's only a start. I mean, we got to start somewhere. So we're counting on you leaders to help us tonight and do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Seeing no one, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Is there a motion from the council?
Move to send 4617 to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Second substitute.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. With that, I will entertain a motion to rise and resolve from So the committee of the moved. whole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Ms. Fowler, would you please give third reading to 4517?
4517, third reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described property. The first north-south alley, west of Laurel Street, running from Jefferson Boulevard to the first east-west alley, and north from Jefferson Boulevard to the first east-west alley.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, roll call.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Third reading for 4617, please.
4617, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 13, Article 5, Section 13-75.5 of the South Bend Municipal Code to adding dealing in a synthetic drug lookalike substance to the list of prohibited activities constituting a disorderly house.
Motion for passage?
Second.
I'm sorry, do we need to accept the,
Second.
sorry, motion to accept the second substitute?
So moved.
As it was written in the committee of the whole.
So moved.
That's a move on that one too.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank
Motion-
you.
Motion for passage of the second substitute?
Second again?
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Varner.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. There are no resolutions at this time. We'll move to bills on first reading. Ms. Fowler, would you give first reading to 4717, please?
4717, first reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described property: the southern portion of the north-south street, east 213 feet of east right-of-way of South Taylor Street and running south 250th Street from south right-of-way of Western Avenue to include a portion running 34 feet from the west right-of-way of William Street to south right-of-way of South William Street.
I make this be sent to the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee for second reading and public hearing on 8/28.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 4817, please.
4817, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending a section of Chapter 2, Article 6 of the South Bend Municipal Code pertaining to tax abatements.
Entertain a motion to send this
Move that
to...
4817 be sent to the DCI, second, third reading, public hearing on 8/28.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 4917, please.
4917, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Section 4-51 of Chapter 4, Article 4 of the South Bend Municipal Code pertaining to licensing and regulations of scrap metal, junk dealers, valuable metal dealers, and recycling operations.
I move that this be sent to the Personnel and Finance Committee and set for second reading and public hearing on 8/28.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay, unfinished business. I would entertain the following motion. One, a submission by the Historic Preservation Commission to file certified copies of the minutes and all documents of the record regarding action taken by the staff and commission on the COA application number 2017-0602A. This is in regards to the Boyd versus Historic Preservation appeal that will come before us. They have three other parts of this motion. Number two, noon on Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017, to establish as the deadline for submission by the petitioner and his attorney for the evidentiary and administrative record. 3, noon on Tuesday, September 5th, 2017, to establish as deadline for submission by the Historic Preservation Commission or by its legal counsel of evidentiary and administrative record. 4, that on Monday, September 11th, 2017, at 7 p.m., South Bend Common Council meeting under the unfinished business, that the council shall hear an appeal involving COA application 2017-0602A, Eric Boyd versus Historic Preservation Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? On that note, as this is, you guys went through this once before, just want to make a reminder that this is an appeal process. We are serving as a judicial body in this regard, So any communication with Mr. Boyd or Historic Preservation should not happen at all. I can't to preserve our duty and judgment. They are supposed to come before us with evidence, and we're supposed to hear that as impartially as we can. I just want to make sure that's clear. Did I miss anything, Mr. Palmer? Okay. With that, unfinished business is there anything else? Unfinished business?
Yeah.
Unfinished business is finished.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Davis.
With our attorney, when it comes down to the, will that be new business?
That will be in 2 weeks.
That would be a resolution.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. I'm at
Okay.
peace.
All right. Anything other unfinished business? Seeing none. Any new business? Seeing none. We will now turn over to privilege of the floor. This is where this is where citizens can come and speak to the Common Council. You're given 3 minutes. I'll have Gavin Furlick keep that time. Give you a 1-minute exit warning. You cannot speak on anything that was on the agenda tonight. Even Karen L. White is off limits. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Sue Kessel. I live at 4022 Kennedy Drive. I recently attended a Public Board of Works meeting, and under our agreement, A&D Constructors LLC will be given $268,044.74 to install a chandelier for the Phantom of the Opera. That's over $250,000 to install a chandelier for a Broadway play. I just want to say, as a citizen, that does not match my values. I think there's a lot of other things that we could spend $268,044.74 on.
Public Works.
So as you're doing the budget, I hope that you'll keep in mind values of things that pertain to all citizens, not just a few. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Brown, 222 East Navarre Street, City of South Bend. I have a watchdog group called Citizens United for a Better Government. And one of the things I want to bring to the council tonight, sometimes you bring things that's not very popular, but I'm the type of guy that tell it like it is. The FOP turnover police administrative sergeant, I'm not going to pronounce his name. But anyway, he was saying that the mayor of the city of South Bend don't support the department, the police department. I don't feel that's right. And I really feel like this is something, it's quite a lengthy article, and I appreciate it. I also let my comment be known to the mayor. I would have liked to have talked to this officer, because there's challenges that you have to go through and try to get anything solved. And at first he started with his leader, the police chief. And I really feel that being the mayor of the city of South Bend, he has to support his police department. Simple as that. Because these are the people that's leading our city, making us safe. So I feel this article was unfair to the mayor of the city of South Bend. I thought it could have been done in a better way, in a more professional way. And I don't care who I offend, I don't care who I upset, I'm telling you how I feel. I'm not a guy that stabs somebody in the back. I think our mayor got a hard enough job without getting some trash like this thrown in his face. I do believe he do support our police department. We got citizens out there to support. I come all the time and tell them about a drug house. I support them. It's right across from my daughter's house. So I'm just going to say this, and then we'll make it real short as I later. I support our mayor. He's got a very difficult job. And I think that this could have been done in a more classic way. And I don't care who I offend or who I get upset. I don't think our mayor deserves this. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Next name and address, please.
Thomas Bush, 1778 Fair Avenue, South Bend, Indiana. I'm here tonight to talk about the south end of Swaggart Street. I live at the intersection of Perry and Swaggart, and been living there about 25 years. And I have talked to Councilman Davis on several occasions about getting, well, we have talked to him about getting Swaggart paved. I mean, out of 25 years, I think it was upgraded one time and it wasn't, really paved then. Now, the south end of Swaggart, which has about 5 houses on it, and there used to be a junkyard down there, and they paved that street. And I talked to Councilman Davis about 3 weeks ago. I was supposed to walk around the neighborhood and meet everybody, which I have a petition everybody signed to get the street paved. But it started raining, so we got rain out, and he said he was coming back the following week, which he never showed. And this is about the 3rd time that I brought something to his attention. He said he's going to take care of it, and he never did. So we still like to get the street paved. It's in bad shape. It should be taken care of. All the streets around there practically have been taken care of. In this alley, east of my house is, it's got potholes in it that had a washout. He came over there and saw that where it go right down to the street, the hill where they had washed completely out. That was taken care of. But the rest of the alley, there's potholes in it. We showed that to him. And
Sir, you have 20 seconds.
He says he's going to return, but, he never came back to do anything about it. So I want to talk to the at-large folks. Ms. White, you want to lose them. I'll be getting in touch with you.
And John Forty, the 3 right here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Pat Matthews, 52127 Fall Creek Drive, Granger, Indiana. I am the manager of MAJCM LLC, and I'm here to give you an update on the Echoes development located on the 1200 block of North Ironwood, one of our first pocket neighborhood communities in the city. So we started this process back in May. It was later tabled by the council, and as noted, we went back to the drawing board to see if we could develop a better project, which I think we've done. However, I'm not here to debate the benefits of the project. We can do that on August 28th. I'm here tonight to correct some of the misinformation and suggest that we were not good neighbors or that we've been disrespectful to the council. Since May, we've met with many city officials to design a project that is more conducive to the neighborhood. I've had the opportunity to share our current plan with many of you, and I hope to be able to share them with the rest of you. The following are a few of the misinformation items I'd like to correct. As a property owner, we've made several attempts to be part of the neighborhood communications. We thought it would be helpful to be part of the neighborhood group and asked if we could be included in their email distribution list. We were denied that. By the way, many of the remonstrators have mentioned that there's a neighborhood association. There's not a neighborhood association. We're a property owner in the neighborhood. I'd be happy to be part of it if we had the opportunity. We did initiate demolition on buildings that were on the site. We determined that the best option was to demolish these buildings as they were vacant and they had been abandoned. Excuse me. One of the homes on the property was already vandalized after our purchase. We did not want them to become attractive nuisances where people would get hurt by playing in them, vandalizing them, etc., so we tore them down. We did take down trees. Any development would require clearing the site. Some trees were truly distressed or diseased, while others were old and placed in the middle of anticipated foundations or parking areas. But leaving them would be disruptive to any new development. The neighbors have been persistent in their comments about the trees. So, I don't think anybody other than somebody like Mike Danch, who by the way has a landscaping architectural degree, would be qualified to talk about the trees, not even me.
And so you have 30 seconds.
It is true that the number of the units has increased. However, what hasn't been mentioned in some of the news articles is that we've also purchased additional property since we had our meeting in May. And so that allowed us to do that. In summary, I personally have had regular communication with the neighbors through their designated point person. The communication has been consistent and comfortable, I think. I really don't understand some of the comments that they've made. In fact, we have a meeting scheduled later this week, right before the APC.
And sir, your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Name and address.
Sharon Panicki, 3822 Ford Street. I am very upset with the mayor for turning down the $10,000 request to put the homeless to work in the parks. I understand it was probably not going to be a wonderful solution, but it was a start. So I hope at budget time that none of the elected officials, appointed department heads, or upper Bs have the audacity to ask for a $10,000 raise when that money could be better spent on the citizens who need it more than those that don't. There's nobody in the city that deserves a $10,000 raise, so don't come looking for it because it's not going to happen. The citizens are watching. On the other hand, I've been following a Facebook post by Trayshelle Nichols, who lives on the southeast side, close to 314 Milton. She posted on Thursday, Friday on My Vocal that she had a problem house. It was full of people that just moved in, moved on. They had furniture all over the front yard. She wasn't getting anywhere with the city. She went on My Vocal, got guidance, and at 8 o'clock this morning, the South Bend Police Department and Code Enforcement showed up, cleared out and cleaned up the property, and she couldn't be more pleased. I just want those that were involved, thank you. She's happy. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Step on up.
My name is Don Dumas. I live at 2015 Peachtree Lane. I live right next door to my daughter and her family. We share a southern boundary of the former church property that we just heard about. It may be painful for the council, but I'm going to bring you back to the last council meeting where we had a marathon discussion on the Friendly Confines bar. I wrote something down during that meeting, and I want to repeat it. It's actually the attorney representing the Friendly Confines bar said the following, and I quote him: "I know that the primary concern of the council is the protection of the surrounding community." I'll repeat that. "I know that the primary concern of the council is the protection of the surrounding community." If that is true, it gives me hope, because in 2 weeks we're going to be back in this room discussing the former church property, and we'll be there in force. I'm without my team today because they're preparing for the APC meeting. But we do have a meeting with the developer. The developer meeting is long overdue. Maybe we were at different meetings on May 22nd, but at the May 22nd meeting, the developer was given one directive with 3 things to do: meet with the neighbors before doing anything else, get their input, gain some level of approval of the neighborhood. Secondly, incorporate that input into a revised plan. And thirdly, bring that back in 3 weeks to present to the council before doing anything else. Since that time, it's about 12, 14 weeks ago, the property's been completely leveled. It strikes me as odd that you can buy a beautiful piece of property that's been occupied for the last 40 years, and when you take ownership of it, you declare it to be vacant, and and you expect to then you level that property, and you expect to be rewarded with preferential treatment or a rezoning petition, and a laundry list of variances. The 22 site plan was rejected back on May 22nd. They were told what to do. We all know that didn't happen. Instead, he submitted a revised plan and actually increased the number of houses. He did buy one additional house adjacent to the property, and he went from 22 to 30. When I saw that plan, it was probably a bigger shock to me than waking up to the sounds of chainsaws and bulldozers in June. This was a bad plan with 22 houses, and they just failed.
You have 30 seconds, sir.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Good night, everybody.
Good.
Keenan. Go.
Ken? Long slide, but I'm getting that on the 2019. I've already put it with a prescription.
No.
Really? Yeah, it came up to my house the other day. I told him nothing in my house together. I said, I told him he's sweating, but you don't want him in the house together. I was going to talk to him. I said, I don't like
Oh, yeah, me. Give me. Okay. She has it in the folder.
There you go.
Your level support. Okay, see ya.
Talk to
I didn't sign stuff, right? Yeah, it's solid. Probably ring.
Do you guys have the signatures from the vacation?
Because it went down,
Oh, we just gave it to Jen.
Okay.
Yeah. James came out and he
Thanks,
spoke
Graham.
at, like,
Thank you,
next
John.
week. And so, we had a whole discussion on it.
Okay.
Yeah, like, it's in line with, he had just taken over CBI.
Yeah.
He just leaving it, but he was there on the panel. And he was speaking about, kind of their
Do you happen to know who owned your old house back when? It looks familiar to me. It was a Koneski family that lived over there. How about Tarnak? They both lived right here.
Do you want to turn off the projector?
Thanks.